Hi everyone, today is May 28th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is GreenRanger.
And I'm Decktech.
And this week has been markedly known for the Paradox Brothers event and also a ton of news regarding the game and also the championships and a lot of news heralding basically the 2.0 revamp of this game. How have you been enjoying this week so far?
I've been having a lot of fun doing the Paradox Brothers event. As you guys know, was had maxed out all my characters, and so I wanted to kind of see how many gems I could get just from doing the event. And when I wrote the show notes, I was at about 1,200, or predicting that I would be. So that's probably about right. I don't need to check my game to make it about right. And I had leveled up Paradox Brothers to 25 just this morning. Wow. So yeah, making some progress, which is both nice and also kind of a little bit of a bummer because that means that I'm going to be done with gems again soon. So hopefully they raise that level cap or something for me.
Yeah, we all really want that, especially people low on gems.
Yeah, how are you doing?
Right now, just as a warning, I'm in New York and there's a train behind me, an F train, and you'll hear rumbling every so often. But I noticeably did not want the Paradox Brothers at first, but now I've completely reversed course, and I actually find them pretty fun. I like trying to guess what rhymes they're gonna say, and my Paradox Brothers, I got them pretty much the first day of the event. I finished the event in 2 days, and I think I'm level 16 or 17 with them. But yeah, farming them, I had some success getting some of the SRs at first. Yesterday, I didn't really do too well with the SRs, but I got a bunch of the cards at first. And I'm collecting all the cards for the game, and you know, I'm not unlike Decktech. I still have a bunch of characters who need leveling up, but just having they just brought a new thing to the game with their new skills, new cards. It's a really good thing for the game just to have a new character.
Yeah, I think the game right now is in probably one of the best spots it's been since maybe since launch. I'm having a really good time. Seems like the community's having a really good time with it, and we've got some interesting stuff to talk about for the Paradox Brothers, like those skills and some fun decks that'll come with them. So
yeah, so let's talk about that. So are we talking about GamePress first? I guess.
Just to briefly note, I think we should say that we don't have any tournament news this week because the Games+Gamers Open, they'll be doing, it looks like they're trying to do one every 2 weeks. You guys will remember that it's free to enter. There's like $100 total prize pool, but it's also a 2-day event. So it's currently still going on. We record on Sundays. They do it Saturday, Sunday. So we'll let you know what happened with that one next week. And there tends to be a Reddit. It previously was a weekly Reddit tournament. Now it seems to not be every week. And if I'm to try to see a pattern, I think I'm seeing that they tend to skip it on the weeks when the Games+Gamers thing is going on. Maybe because they don't want to compete with that. So we don't have one of those this week either.
Okay, great. I mean, we'll report on the GameA tournament. It's probably really interesting. I mean, there's going to be, your tried and true decks, but it could be something new with the new cards since they got access to these cards by then.
Yeah, maybe some of those fun new decks we're going to be talking about later.
All right. The first item of the news is that the GamePress Duel Links websites is in. They made a post on Reddit announcing it, and a lot of people had a lot of positive responses. And the website is duellinks.gamepress.gg. And if you go on the site, if you've used GamePress before, I've gone on the site for Shadowverse, and it's a pretty good site. They have more detailed ratings on cards. So a set comes out, they give a set, like a card, whatever stars out of 10. They have really in-depth guides. I used the guide for the Paradox Brothers on level 40, and it pretty much said exactly what it was, and I got consistently 9,400, 9,300 points from following that guide. And yeah, it's just an alternative source to GameA, which was the website that we were using a while. We still use it for news, but recently I've seen a lot of articles, especially before the Paradox event, where they said these were the 6 best cards to farm the Paradox Brothers before they even knew what cards were coming out. So I thought that was a little clickbaity, I guess that's the phrase. Just trying to get views. But, I mean, it's probably best to use both websites, just have them bookmarked, and just the GameA might be faster on breaking news, but GamePress might have some advantages in learning about farming decks or just more detailed information.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's good to be fair to GameA, and one of the things that we will always love GameA for doing is being, as far as we can tell, the first ones on the scene.
Right.
For the first several months of playing this game, it was the site that, it was pretty much the only site, as far as I could tell, that was dedicated to it, and we used it a lot, and we're still going to use it. But there have always been some issues with it, and so we're glad to see a new option coming up as well, especially from I don't know, an established like gaming, a quality gaming website. So that's exciting.
Yeah, just to give an example, they have the level 40 drops for the Paradox Brothers, and they gave cards a rating from 1 to 9.5. There are 4 cards that got a 1, and that pretty much says you're never going to use this card. Like, it's not like a 5 or something, so it's like, and on another site, they might say, like, they might not even rate it, so you would know straight off the bat which ones would not be used. And then there's Damage Gate, which got a 9.5, so it tells you straight off the bat which one's good, which one's bad.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. You watched a Duel Links Meta live stream, right? You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so a guy who runs Duel Links Meta, he got on Twitch for the first time, and what he did was he played some gameplay during the day, and he posted like an hour and a half of him playing the ladder, and he was basically live streaming a Q&A, so he was interacting with Twitch chat. People were asking him a ton of questions, and I will go through these questions. But just by watching the stream, I learned a ton about how to play the game at a high level, and these are things that are pretty useful. The full video is an hour and a half, but he has a 20-minute highlight reel, I guess. So I guess I should talk about that, right?
Yeah, just a few of the things, I guess, that you think are worth highlighting would be nice.
All right, I have a lot of stuff. It's best to save Twister for the last moment, because when Harpy's Hunting Ground activates, you destroy it on Chain Link 2, and you destroy it on Chain Link 2, a continuous or field spell needs to remain face up to resolve. So, if you followed that. The new Chaos Magician is really good in Bluff Trap. It's good in any deck that uses regular tributes, since it counters Relinquished. Feel free to chime in if you find anything really cool. The new Doom Dog from the Trader can make Necrofear viable. There's a new Necrofear build that he's building around Skull Lair and Escape from a Dark Dimension.
That copycat.
Copy?
Yeah, he's copying us.
Oh, yeah. Restart is the best for Gravekeepers after skill changes. I think he used Switcheroo before that. It increases the chance of getting Gravekeeper's Recruiter because you need it in the opening to pretty much win the game. Gravekeepers with double summon is the best. If you don't have double summon, you can have room for counter cards, but you definitely need Soul Exchange in Gravekeepers. In respect to banning cards or putting cards on a limiter list, he thinks that there are so many cards that Konami can release and tap into just from the trading card game. They could just put them in to nerf other cards. And he thinks that they're being conservative with card releases because of the championships. he expects after the championships we're going to see new mechanics like synchros.
Mm.
Do you know what synchro is? I'm not exactly sure.
No.
Okay. If there are nerfs, he expects Taya Byrne could be the one to be nerfed, her skill maybe. And he thinks that Harpy's Hunting Ground is extremely limiting to card releases, to future card design or card releases. He thinks Konami is on a mission to make bad cards in the trading card game viable in Duel Links. He wants you to throw out all bias if you've played real-life Yu-Gi-Oh! He says how Harpies were a really bad deck. Like, all the decks that are top here are not viable in the trading.
Mm.
He says if you don't have a second or third Sonic Bird or Senju, this one's pretty important. He says hold off grinding the packs if you got King of Games with 0 or 1 relinquished. So he said there's plenty of time to get those cards if you got far without them. He expects Security Orb to see major play in the qualifiers. He talked about that card a lot back in the day. If you're a free-to-play player, it's best to get the box with Sonic Duck. I think that's Wonders of the Sky. Then the one with Master Kianshi. I think that one is Valkyrie. I don't remember. Or is that Chaotic Compliance? I forget. And then he also said the one with the baboons, which is the latest one for Security Orb. So he said if you're a free-to-play player just starting, those are the cards to get. So 1750 Beaters and Security Orb. Just because it's so hard to get econ.
Right.
He says there's 10 different viable builds for Harpies, and they're a really versatile deck. There's very many different ways to play it. He thinks 3 Elegant Egotists is too much, but it could work. He says if you struggle with Harpies, you're going to struggle with all different variants of them. So, he says that. Dragon support is not enough. The new Dragon card is great, but it's not great as a whole. Venus without Switcheroo, it can be viable without restart. I mean, it can be viable with restart as long as you open your hand with Venus. Let me go through more of these. If you're running a pure relinquished deck, you should have 3 Sphere Karibos. If you have Sergeant Electro, you can get away with 1. Or Harpy's Hunting Ground, you can get away with just 1 Sphere Karibo. Make sure you realize your misplays in casual duels. He says if you want to practice, you want to stay at Plat 3, win 4 games and lose 1 on purpose, because he says if you get the King of Games, people are just playing around. So if you want the hardest competition, stay at Platinum 3. And it's important to join tournaments to experience the high pressure situations and also record your gameplay if you want to practice getting into the qualifiers. Bunch of other stuff, but he also said he thought about the gem situation, that Konami front-loaded us too many gems, and it's not a problem if they give us enough events to keep going, but he does see the gem situation being a problem.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. We will link you have the 20-minute highlight thing. Do you have the link to the full VOD as well?
I can find it.
Yeah, all right, cool. We'll throw both of them in there because there's a lot of juicy info in there, and we've also got a little bit of it in the show notes, but we'll make sure that you guys can find everything you need as well.
Yep. All right. Super Joey. Yesterday was the last day. I didn't realize he was gone this morning. Shoot.
Yeah.
But
I think that's like indicative of the event, right?
Yeah, it went on so long, and we never really got anything from it. I think I did get a Red Eye Spirit from him yesterday, but I don't think I have 3 of any of his new cards. Like, it just fell flat, really.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because there's no great way to check, aside from like right before you duel them, and now he's gone, so I can't check that way.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what I got from him, but we talked about before how the prizes weren't amazing. And it was overshadowed by Kaiba Man and the Card Trader when it started, and now it's overshadowed by Paradox Brothers, and the whole event was kind of flat, like you said, and so I'm sure you're not the only one who didn't notice that it had ended, because it's the absence of something, and it wasn't even something we were super excited about in the first place. I haven't really seen any posts about it on Reddit or anything either.
I guess it's just for Red Eyes Black Dragon role players. That's all it's for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
All right. Probably the biggest news was the announcement of the Duel Links World Championship qualifiers, as we mentioned before. We mentioned the tournament happening in London over the course of 2 days in August, but this is all the stuff about what you need to do to get into the tournament in the first place. And the qualifiers will work same as PvP, where if you get King of Games during May 31st to June 11th, you get a spot into the initial qualifiers. And also, they actually lock you into your location, which is very good in terms of fair representation, I guess, of people playing where there should be. People playing the game in the country that they've registered. I guess that's the way you say it. And the groups are North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Japan, Korea / Taiwan, Asia / Middle East / Africa, and Oceania.
Right.
No.
I think that was, well, I remember that was one of the major complaints when we did the Kaiba Cup.
Right.
Was a lot of people were talking about what they were calling the Asian invasion, where I think the Japanese players had the game for a couple months longer than the North American players, and so the Americas server was, half of the people in it were from Japan, and they just had much more comprehensive collections, and so it was kind of unfair in that regard.
Right.
I was on the side of it didn't really matter all that much because you could compete at a close enough level. But I mean, I can see why some people were upset. And so this kind of takes that out. For the Kaiba Cup, they asked people what region they wanted to play with, which was a little bit weird. And was part of the reason why I had no problem with it, because it's not like the Japanese players did anything wrong. They asked where they wanted to play and put an answer. So I guess this way it kind of takes out that question, and it just does it. If you want to get mad at anyone, you're going to get mad at Konami at this point. Right.
And you have some ambitions about trying this out, right? I kind of forced you into it on Twitter, but
yeah, no, I do think that it's worth it to play at least a King of Games. So I'll take the second bit, I guess. Once you get to King of Games within that period, then there's a short period at the end, June 9th through June 11th, in which the people who are in King of Games already compete in something very similar, it looks like, to the Kaiba Cup, in which when you do a game against each other, the winner gains points and the loser loses points. It looks like they're going to be called dual points or something like that. And each region gets an allocated number of players who will get to go on. So of those regions that you just named, each one will send one player, except for North America, Europe, and Japan. North America and Japan each get 2, whereas Europe gets 3. So, D. Kayed from Duel Links Meta, I think he was famous because he got second place in the Kaiba Cup, which, like we just said, was kind of a mixed bag as to which geographic region you're in, and so maybe that makes it a little bit easier. But, I mean, we're talking about first place or second place. I don't think there's any real chance that I could do that. I can't take days off of work and spend a bunch of time doing this. So I'm definitely going to try to play to King of Games, though, because the announcement does note that there will be prizes just for competing in the initial portion. So even if you don't plan on trying to hit those first place through third place, depending on your region, just like I do not plan to, it is worth it to still play, because you get some prizes based on how well you do in that essentially ladder portion. And one final thing is the final qualifiers is from June 9th through June 11th, but you do not have to be King of Games prior to June 9th. You will note from the timing of the first section that you can make King of Games all the way up to June 11th, and that will obviously give you less of a chance to gain points for the dual point portion, but you're still allowed to try and compete. So if you don't make it on that, like by that first day, and you still want to try to make it to London, you can keep going.
Yeah, just from the DKIED stream, he mentioned a deck he's going to be playing to qualifiers. He didn't say exactly the thing because obviously people would tech it against him, but he's playing Harpies with interesting variant, like a interesting thing with it. He didn't say what that was. Obviously. Playing Harpies.
Yeah.
It's probably the deck you would want to play, or something that just beats a lot of different decks. So it's good to do your research before you actually lock in your deck. He said, "Don't bring Victory Vipers," like someone asked him to. Victory Vipers.
Yeah, I think don't bring Victory Viper is pretty obvious. I think bring Harpies is probably a good choice. If you have a full value relinquish, that's probably a good choice. We're going to talk about some Paradox Brothers decks. You've got a little bit of time to test out to see if they're as good as all the hype is, but maybe that's an option. We'll see. We have a little bit of time to figure it out still, but not much. So
right. All right. So we hope you do well. Maybe you'll go to London. Maybe.
My wife would love it if I could take her to London, but like I said, first place. I don't know about that.
All right. There's a sale going on. There are some sales every so often, but this one is right before the qualifiers and championship, and it's notable. It's the sale for all the different card sets. So if you're behind in the old card sets, it's a good time to get them. But the sale is restricted to money purchases. So if you spend actual money instead of gems, you feel like there should be some gem-based sales, right?
Yeah, I would like that. I think the whole premise of free-to-play is that you pay as much money as you think the game is worth to you. And that's why it works from the player side. It works from the game side because they get to capitalize on some principles of addiction, and sometimes people lose track of how much they spend, and it gets a lot more people to try out the game, and therefore a lot more people will maybe put in a little bit of money instead of, like, if you sold the game for like $30 or $60 if it's a console game, and then people don't like it and people don't want to invest that full amount, so maybe they'll put in a little bit. Anyway, we're getting off topic. But the idea is that free-to-play is supposed to allow you to play without spending the money. That's kind of part of the underlying promise. And so I always like it when it's not like necessary to spend the money, and I don't think that this is necessary, but it would be nice to help out the free-to-play players as well by offering some in-game resource sales. That said, if you're going to spend actual money, now is a great time to do it. We were talking about probably the most extensive sale in terms of how many options are available. And of course, the fact that it hits every set is pretty extensive as well. And I wouldn't ever buy packs in this game without it being on sale because the sales are so frequent. So, now is probably there's not going to be another sale for a little while, and especially not one on all of the packs. So if you're spending money, now's the time to do it.
Yep. If you want to make your own lunch someday or not buy alcohol on a certain day, it's a good way to spend your money.
I guess that's a good point. It's not a ton of money. I think the lowest price one was like $1.99 or something. So
yeah,
that's true. You could just not have that drink of alcohol.
And you get gems, I think, for your purchases, right? For your money purchases.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the sale portion is that you get like a gem. I guess you're buying the gems. It's not really a gem refund, but you buy packs plus gems for the price of just the packs. And then on some of the bundles, you also get guaranteed either a guaranteed super rare or a guaranteed ultra rare. Back earlier in the game, they had a similar sale for whenever a new set was released. They would offer a buy 10 packs of this set and get one guaranteed super rare and like 50 gems or something like that. And I bought that once or twice. I think I did it for the Flame Tyrant set for sure. And it's a pretty solid deal. If you have the $10 to throw into it, I think that's a really good way to spend your money. I was happy with what I got and with the value there. But, you know, you don't want to put in – I don't want to put in money every single set. So
yeah, I'm still F2P, but if you want to support the game and if you really want to get some cards, like if you're dying to get that card, it's something to look into.
Yeah, and sorry, one last point. The guaranteed super rare or ultra rare does not pull from your box, so you can get an extra one, as it were. And I think it's worth it to look at what the available options are. So for the Flame Tyrant set, for instance, it was a very good deal because there were not that many to choose from, and a lot of them were solid. I got a Sergeant Electro, which was just about the best you could get. I got Golden Apples, which was also one of the better options. So that set was really good to buy with that guaranteed card because the guaranteed card had a really good chance of being really solid.
Yeah, like certain sets only have a certain number of URs. Like the Baboon set, there's only 2 URs and there's 2 Baboons. So you have to figure out, I guess, play the percentages about what you want.
Right.
Yep. All right. The next news item is more changes to the ranked ladder. So there was the discussion about how the ladder would pertain to the qualifiers, but starting on July the 4th or around that time, the ranked seasons will reset on every month on the 30th of the month. I guess February would be the 28th, maybe. But
yeah,
there's weird. There's gonna be 5 additional ranks. So after Plat 3, you get Platinum 4 and 5, and then there's going to be Legend 1 to 3 before you get to King of Games. So it's a longer climb to King of Games, and it makes King of Games more. Makes it mean something more, I guess, since you're fighting through more people. When they get revamped, everyone's going to get sent back to Rookie 1. So, for example, we are stuck on Silver. We got a minimum of Silver on the ladder, but we're going to be set back down. And each season, you'll drop by 5. And during the ranked season, when you lose games, you'll drop within your ranked tier, but not below your tier. Yeah, so if you stay in gold, you get locked in, but not in silver. And your rank will be clear at rank gold and higher. Your name will be a color to show your rank in the versus screen prior to the duel. And casual games, you'll now be paired against players at or near your rank. So, like I said before, this probably makes King of Games worth more, but it might also make it easier for someone to get into Platinum if they haven't gotten there. Maybe, right?
Yeah, I think that it makes it worth more because it's a lot more games, and we don't know how many games you have to win to go from the Legend ranks up to King of Games or anything like that, so we don't know exactly how many more games it is. They also didn't say for sure whether or not they're keeping the must-win X number in a row portion of it versus just win, this many more games than you've lost, or straight win this many games is also a possible option, but unlikely.
Yeah, it's just great that they actually have that the ladders were setting on the 30th every month. That's pretty big, I think, because before we never really knew.
Right. It's nice to have some predictability. It also makes the ranked season like twice as long or something like that.
Yeah.
So that might actually, like you said, it might make it easier depending on how many games they add in the Platinum 4 through Legend 3 added ranks. It might be easier to hit those with all that extra time. It's also probably going to be a little bit easier with those floors where you can't go below your tier, I guess. So I'm excited to see what this little shakeup is going to do. I'm also excited I'm going to try to hit King of Games again after that goes live to see if I could do it in the new system as well. So that makes it so that I will hopefully be King of Games 3 times in the game. And usually I'm kind of the type of player who likes to do it once or twice to prove I can do it. But after that, I'm like, yeah, it's not worth the grind. Like I said, I can't take days off of work or anything like that to do it. So I have to really kind of try really hard to get there, to get in the number of games that I need to do it. So it's nice to prove it to myself. And it's nice to have these reasons provided by the game to really be like, yeah, all right, you should try it again. So it should be fun.
It's time to be the very best, like no one ever.
Triggering everyone out there with all the Pokemon references.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to talk about the Paradox Brothers, and if it is the best event of all time, like I declared. There were a few glitches that have been since patched, but other than that, everyone seems to be having a good time. You see some complaints about the event not lasting long enough, like the reward structure to 1.8 million, but that's always a good thing if that's the chief complaint, that it didn't last too long. So that means it was a great event. And it's great since we did have a couple of clunkers in a row. The Joey event was pretty bad. Yugi event was pretty bad. Was the last Pegasus event bad? I forget. It was, right?
I thought the last Pegasus event was good, but there were definitely some people who were complaining about it. So.
Oh yeah, they counted the tour guide as an event. Maybe that's
okay.
Yeah.
If you count the tour guide, then yeah, that one probably shouldn't have even been called an event.
Yep.
But yeah.
And the Paradox Brothers are a better structure than the Yugi or Joey events because you grind out the Labyrinth keys by fighting the Standard Duelist and the Vagabond. And sometimes they have the random encounter where you get to choose a gate, so that's pretty much a free run at the Paradox Brothers without using 40 keys. And of course, they are pretty easy to farm on 40. 30 seems to be more difficult, but 40 is the one you want to farm because they have a more filtered set of cards, so it's easier to get the SRs instead of some garbage normal card. But you also get it was just a lot easier just because of the monsters they start out, and also the decks too. The prizes aren't the best. There are some good cards here, but there are some cards that they're interesting cards, but they're not like top tier cards, I guess.
Yeah. The example we always fall back on was the first Pegasus event gave us Relinquished, which has since that point shaped the game to a pretty high degree. And so, that's kind of probably the one side of it where you can have the most impactful card from the event. If you got any more impactful than that, there'd probably be people calling for immediate nerfs. There were already people calling for nerfs of Relinquished. And then, I don't know, the least impactful cards, the tour guide gave us nothing.
Yeah.
There were the Joey cards. It's still yet to be seen whether they will be very useful. I'm trying to think of...
Bakura gave us Necrofear, I guess.
Yeah, Bakura gave us Necrofear, which hasn't seen too much play, but I think that was by design because that card's super strong as well. I think Necrofear was them trying to give another shot to Relinquished, where they're adding this really powerful card into the game, but they want to be careful about it. So they only gave us one.
Yugi had Union Attack too.
Right, yeah. Yugi's was mainly just for farming. It wasn't really for PvP because I haven't seen the Magnets or the Dragon Guy or anything really see much play in PvP. So I don't know. These rewards were okay. I haven't gotten them all, so I haven't been able to play them. I've seen a few of them pop up in like farming decks, so it still waits to be seen a little bit. But the main things that were kind of what they were about were the labyrinth wall and the labyrinth shadow thing. I think that might have been a level up one only, but those ones are both pretty unimpressive. So
Right. I think the main card the best card that GamePress says is Damage Gate. When you take battle damage, target a monster in your graveyard with attack less than or equal to the damage you took and special summon. So maybe.
Yeah, maybe. The Dimension Gate, the other gate,
Right.
was the one that was used in a farming deck. So those are kind of the things you want. Those, of course, are the two that I have not yet gotten any of.
Oh man.
But other than that, the main prize, of course, was getting the Paradox Brothers themselves as a character.
Right.
Which is just a prize no matter what the character is, because you get the gems and a few cards from just leveling them up.
Right.
But in this case has been a great prize because they have some good abilities, and we get the gems as well. And you have fun with their rhyming limerick thing. So,
Limericks.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit more about that? Let's head to the duel school.
All right. So let's talk first about farming the Paradox Brothers to get the cards. As we first mentioned, Unhappy Girl works pretty well against level 40 and 50. And 40 and 50 are easier than level 30. I guess the reason why 30 is hard is because his trap cards do some tricky things. He has the Labyrinth of Nightmare, which flips your monsters. And he also starts off with a 2400 attack monster. Instead of 40, he starts out with a 0 attack monster with 3000 defense. And there's nothing he can do to stop you in level 40. He doesn't have any combat tricks, I think, that mess with your monsters. It's important to clear his back row on level 40. Why don't you explain what your farming deck, your typical farming strategy is for these guys?
Sure. So, of course, like you said, it's Unhappy Girl, which means you're running 3 of those and 3 of the Searcher. Right. Which is a fairly standard shell, I guess. And you use that. You have the Taya ability on Holy Guard, I think.
Guard, yep.
Yeah. And so with that, you can attack your Unhappy Girls into his monsters and just leave them up in attack mode, and then he cannot attack into them. Then you do that every turn to stall out for the entire game until you have a tribute, a fusion, a ritual, and then a finisher is how I'm doing mine to get all the points. So you do that, you get the 0 cards in your deck points, sometimes you get the 0 damage points, sometimes you get the comeback points if he gets 1 attack in before you get your Unhappy Girl online, and you get the fusion and the ritual and the over 9,000, and my finisher is the Vassal plus Union attack, so I also get the effect damage only. What you need to do is you will have all 3 Unhappy Girls out because you can't destroy them. And so on the turn, the penultimate turn, which is the second to last turn, you just like to use fancy words sometimes. That's what happens when you're a lawyer, just for no reason. On the second to last turn, you use your ritual. I use Relinquished. And so I have 3 Unhappy Girls out, so you have to sacrifice one of them to summon the Relinquished, and then I eat one of his big guys. He's got the god, Suijin, Kaijin, and the other one. And so you do that. His other guys are still locked down, and the god's big enough that he's not going to want to attack into it with his last thing if he summons something on his last turn. Then on your last turn, I use the release what's it called? No, not release restraint. Forget what the card's called, but the one where you destroy an equip that you control and then destroy all of his back row.
Is it release restraint wave?
Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you. So I use release restraint wave to destroy the thing that I had eaten with relinquished, and that clears out his back row, so you feel safe to do what you need to do. And then I use double summon so that I can play the big koala, and that's a 2 tribute. So I tribute the 2 unhappy girls, and then I play the vassal with my second summon, and then I fusion the koala into the kangaroo or whatever, and I use the vassal as the finisher. Yeah, secret pass plus union attacks and attack for like 13,000 or something like that. And that's how it works. I think we were talking about it before, and your list actually seems to get like 400 more points per game. So I'm interested to see if what do you do differently?
Yeah, so it's definitely 3 unhappy girl, 3 Rame, relinquished. I don't have Master Vaz, so I have Red Eyes Black Dragon and Meteor Dragon with the Red Meteor Dragon or Black Meteor Dragon. I don't know what he's called. I have 3 hieroglyph lithographs, and that's mostly to keep my hand full, and also to reduce my life points to 1,000. I only use 1 because if you use 2 of them, you're down to 2,000, and he could kill you immediately with a god on your unhappy girl. I use 2 pots of benevolence in case he mills himself, and also, in the rare event that you lose one of your monsters, like your Meteor Dragon or your Red Eyes Black Dragon, you put it out for some reason and it's gone. You could bring it back, but mostly it's for his monsters. His cards, so he doesn't run out of cards. I use the Vassal. What else do I use? Jeez. Let me think. I don't do anything with his back row on 40. I know that. Let me check it for a sec. Sorry.
Well, no, I think one difference might just be that you have more glossy cards. I mean, that's an easy difference.
So they're additive, right?
Right. And there's also if you happen to lower your life, on your last turn, you use more of the lithographs, then there's something there too. You can get the low life, whereas I can't. So maybe that's something to do with it.
Yeah. And also some of the things to consider for that event. Sometimes you could steal, if you get your relinquished to steal Kazajin, and he has an Unshaven Angler, he could destroy it with Suijin. So that's just something to consider. And it's just mostly the sequencing of the cards. So you don't want to put the Vassal out early, or you don't want to put relinquished out too early. From my experience, getting out the fusion hasn't been an issue on 40. There's no way for him to destroy it if you don't attack into his monsters.
Right.
Yeah, I just have a fusion gate. I think that's the only card I left out instead of polymerization. But everything else is... I have 2 union attacks.
Yeah.
That's it. I guess I have a lot of glossies, I guess.
And the other thing is you don't have to use the Vassal Union attack, of course. You can use the Martyr and Piranha as well for our listeners who don't have the Union attacks. So there's a few other finishers as well that people sometimes use. Those are the easiest ones.
But it's important to get the guy down. Get your points up to 10,000 to get those 3,000 extra points for your duel assessment.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And I haven't farmed with the Paradox Brothers yet, but there are, they come with a bunch of new, very unique skills that have really shaped up the game and really got people buzzing about the pros and cons of these skills in regards to farming or just gameplay in general. So let's go through some of those.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of farming with them myself, just to test it out, see how it works, and then I decided that I should focus on trying to farm them instead of farming with them, at least while the event's still live, so that I can try to get some of those super rares that I'm still missing. But the Elements Unite skill is very good for farming. All of the legendary duelists who don't have any way of messing with your big guy can't compete with it. So it's 100% guaranteed, unless you intentionally do something wrong, to successfully 8k or greater farm Yugi, Weevil, Rex, and Odeon. And with Taya, you just have to be a little bit careful that she doesn't deck herself. I'm not sure what kind of score you would get if she does deck herself, but even if she does, you're still going to win. And so it's 100% guaranteed, unless you're intentionally ruining it, to not lose against Taya also. So all of those legendary duelists are now really easy to farm. And before with Cerberus, there was a slight chance that something would go wrong and your draws wouldn't quite add up and they wouldn't attack enough to activate your Searcher. And so you would actually just lose. So there was, I don't know, an 80% success rate or 90 or something like that, but it didn't always work. This one always works. What the skill is, if you haven't gotten it or haven't tried it out yet, is you start at 500 life and you only have one card in your hand, and it's Gate Guardian, and you have the 3 gods on the field. And so the way that you do it against these easy legendary duelists is on the first turn, you just special summon the Gate Guardian by sacrificing the 3 gods, and then the entire deck is drawing and a couple pots of benevolence so that you get to the end of your deck before they do, and then some sort of finisher. And so for me, what I did is I put the fusion in there, the same kangaroo guy, and I put the vassal and union attacks, and I also put one, blue medicine, and one Mugan
Curry.
Yeah, Muyan Curry, so that I could gain 600 life, and then I put one of the same tablet that gives you an extra card in your hand, lithograph, that you have to pay 1,000 to play that, so that I can get myself down to 100 life. And so you get the cards on the brink, you get the life on the brink, you get the comeback victory, you get the fusion, you get the effect damage only, you get the 9,900, and it's, like I said, 100% guaranteed against these legendary duelists. And every time that I've done it, I did it like a handful of times. Every single time I got like 9,000 duel assessment points easily. So that's really revolutionizing the way that you would do it. Of course, it works with the other finishers. The Piranhas is the easy one that I can think of that it would work with just as well. I'm not sure if it really makes sense with the other ones, because the whole point is that you don't have to rely on like buffing up the Serb. I guess if you hold all your cards in hand, because the main thing is that you have 0 cards in your hand once you play the Gate Guardian, and that's why you need all the card draw and the pots of benevolence so that they don't deck out before you get to do your big finisher and stuff. And so if you wanted your finisher to be Serb, then you could probably just hold it until you have like 7 cards in hand, and then play your Serb and play 6 spells, and then finish it off that way. But the easier way would be Vassal if you have the union attacks, or Piranha if you have the Piranha. There are a couple other farming things as well, which I've not been able to try. There is an Elements Unite farming deck specifically for Kaiba, because of course he's a little bit harder to farm than the ones who will just sit there and do nothing. And in that one, it relies on, and the reason why I haven't tried it is that it relies pretty heavily on the Dimension Gate that I don't have. And essentially, as far as I can tell, the way that it works is he won't attack into, he doesn't have enough life points to attack into all of the gods, and one of them with the Dimension Gate, I guess. And he would be attacking into them with the DD Warrior, but he doesn't have enough life points to do so. And then you run a few things like Blast Held by a Tribute or Bottomless Trap Hole, so that he doesn't attack into them just with blue eyes and ruin your day that way. But you also run Ryoku Field or two to protect against the enemy controllers, and then you run your finisher. And it looks like the main point is just that you can stall enough with the gods as a wall. If you use the ability, they actually can't attack. It's one of the restrictions on it, but they are a pretty solid wall to just let you stall out until you get to your end game finisher. So I'm looking forward to trying that one once I get the Dimension Gates. And finally, there is also a 3-star Demotion Kaiba farming deck that I've seen. And 3-star Demotion is a drop skill the Paradox Brothers get. So I haven't tried this farming method because I don't have that drop skill yet. Like I said, I only did a few farms with them to test out the previous one. And so I haven't had too many opportunities to get the drop skill just yet. You get them, of course, from fighting legendary duelists. It's one of the chests that you can open. You've probably gotten a few by now. But since it's so easy to farm those other legendary duelists, I expect that I will get it soon, and I'm excited to do so. What the skill does is it allows you to, once per turn, pay 2,000 life to reduce the level of all of the monsters in your hand by 3 until the end of that turn. So the way that this one works is kind of similar. You use the ability to get out one of the gods, and then he, like was the case with the other one, doesn't like to attack into them because they're very powerful. He takes a lot of life, a lot of damage when he does so. So you use the ability and set up a wall with the various gods. The only thing he can attack with that can beat them is the blue eyes, and even then he doesn't like to attack into it because of the god's ability to make it a 0. And so he would take like 2,500 damage. So you only need to summon probably 2 gods, I think, to be safe. And then you just need to avoid the enemy controllers. And you do that, of course, with Ryoku Field. And to be able to summon more than one god, you will run life gain. The best one is Supremacy Berry, because you use the ability and then you use Supremacy Berry and you're back up to 4,000. And then you use your finisher. And so the version that we have linked in the show notes is on GameA, and its finisher is Piranha Army and the Secret Pass and 2 Gift of the Martyr. So you have to summon 2 of the gods beforehand, which is fine because you probably were going to anyway to be safe. And then on the last turn you Piranha Army, and you need 2 because they're not strong enough to, with just 1, make it over 10,000 damage.
Just because I've been out of the loop myself, some skills actually give you the gods in your deck, right, without you having them in your deck. But some of them require you to have them.
I don't know if there's a skill that like puts them in your deck, but the elements Unite puts them on the field,
right?
And you don't have to put them in your deck. If that's what you mean. So it doesn't really put them in your deck because they're never in your deck, but it puts them in your card pool, I guess.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So that's all I have for farming. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, or should we move on to the PvP?
We can move on.
All right. For PvP, that same skill, 3-star Demotion, is really getting people excited. It's kind of like the new hotness for this week. and it's very new because it's a drop skill, and the event's even still going on. So a lot of people like myself haven't even tried to get the drop skill yet, really, and aren't playing too much PvP. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. We just described how it works. You have to pay the 2,000, and then you get to drop the stars by 3. So if you fill your deck with strong level 7 monsters, they become level 4, and you can play them without tributes. And you use some life gain like Supremacy Berry to make sure that you are alive to do that after you play it. So it's really powerful, and people on Reddit seem to think that it's potential to reshape the meta. So I'm seeing 3 main versions. One of them uses Joan. I forget her name, but
Saint Joan, right?
Yeah, Saint.
No, wait, it's the one you get from the trader, right?
Yes, yeah, the ultra rare from the trader. And the reason you get her is that she gains you life back. So that version, I'm pretty sure all versions would run Supremacy Berry. That seems like a really good interaction with for the deck. But that version runs even more life gain so that you can activate the skill more times. I've also seen a version that runs mostly normal monsters, really strong 7-star normal monsters, like I think Dark Magician is one of them, and perhaps that big koala is. And Champion's Vigilance is the perk of doing that. And then I've seen others that just kind of use the best 7-star monsters in the game, like Barrel Dragon. I've even seen a Daedalus version that runs Yumi's like in the deck so that you can cheat out a Daedalus and then clear if you want to. And the gods, of course, that we talked about in the farming methods, those are pretty solid just dudes as well. So I'm excited to start playing with this deck. It reminds me of the Keith ramp deck that I like, the very first semi-competitive deck that I ever made. I like ramping, and I like that it's a lot more open, so it allows you to play any number of lists of it. I've also seen some cool versions running double summon, which just sounds fun because you get to use your skill, double summon, put out 2 fatties, and hopefully just win from there. But stuff can happen. One of the stuff that can happen, of course, is Relinquished. Seems pretty solid against this deck. Relinquished always does pretty well against something that has to rely very heavily on like one big thing. We'll see. I don't see Harpies being super hard for it. Taya Burn could be a decent counter since the deck relies on being able to pay 2,000 life to do stuff. So if they don't draw or for some reason don't play the Supremacy Berries, and by that I meant run it, then work cast it, I guess. But that could be a really tough match. I think the normal like beatdown decks, we'll see how strong they are. They tend to have obviously some removal because they can't get too far behind. So things like Order to Charge, I guess that's how Harpies could give us some trouble as well. I guess we'll just see. We'll see how it all shakes out once we get more time with it. But it seems at least to be a really fun thing to try out. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so now that you got the Paradox Brothers and got through the event, it's probably a really good idea just to use that Elements Unite just to farm out the 3-star Demotion. If it wasn't obvious that you should try to get these skills just because they have such potential, or they're already making an impact on the meta. So it's pretty important to get these skills as fast as you can. Probably once this event's over, you could just start doing it. Or if you have time to play through it, and you got enough cards, you should just start doing it right away.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you are, trying to either get this to play in the upcoming, qualifiers for the championship, or just to know what a lot of people are going to be playing. there's a lot of people going into a big event like that will try to avoid the new thing because they don't know it, and so they want to go with something they know, and they know the strengths and they know how to play it. But a lot of other people like to just play the new hotness, both because they're excited about it and because they know that the meta might not be yet prepared. People don't know how to face it yet, so
Right.
it's something that you should probably be aware of if you're going to try to compete.
Yeah.
And like I said, it just looks like fun.
DK had mentioned how he thinks Gravekeepers is the best deck just because it's the most scarce and people don't get the number of reps against it to know how to play against it correctly. Like how Harpies are so common, they might have a lower win rate just because people are playing it so infrequently. And these new cards, new play styles are definitely it might force them to change some of their strategies moving into qualifiers.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to see how it shakes stuff up.
Or
if it's all just hype right now.
Yeah. You never know. All right. If there's nothing else to add, do you have anything else to add about this week? Or we're just going to start playing right away?
Yeah, I'm just going to jump right back in.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything else. I think we could just wrap it up.
Oh, great. You did a good job. I guess we give a shout out to the Reddit community. We give them some flack sometimes about being annoying, but they came up with these really good ideas about how to play the Paradox Brothers, and it really does help you as a deck builder see some of the ideas and probably take it to the next level of some of your own ideas about how to build a deck. But it's pretty cool that they identified the power of these the Paradox Brothers right away.
Yeah, for sure. There's, like you said, some downsides to groupthink, but there's a whole lot of benefit as well, and that's kind of the whole premise of Reddit. So, good on you, Duel Links.
Duel Links. All right. You can find this podcast on various finders. We found that there's more than iTunes and Stitcher, so anywhere. You can find our website at theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Our Patreon, if you want to support us, at patreon.com/duel_assessment. Email us at theduelassessment@gmail.com. We're open to suggestions about what to talk about next week or the week after. And you can find us on Twitter at duel_assessment, me at GreenRanger HS, and Decktech at HS Decktech.
That's right. Thanks for listening, guys.
Happy farming, everyone.
Happy farming.